Last year I made a video about one of my favorite side dishes called Bacornion. I wanted to make that dish again for this holiday season, but I wanted to put a couple twists on it. But honestly, I don't know what to call it. So I'm going to be calling this my holiday bacon something. Yes, holiday bacon something. Basically, I'm taking the Bacornion recipe, which I'll put a link to in the video description and up here, and I'm doing a few different things with it. So first, we've got to fry up some bacon. Now, I have a pound of Nashville hot bacon. This came from the butcher at my local grocery store. They have lots of different flavored bacons there. You don't have to use this kind. You could use just plain bacon, but I wanted to kick this up a bit, so I chose this Nashville hot bacon. I'm going to get it in my pan here. And I've already chopped up this bacon. And I'm going to cook this down to about the state of doneness that I like, which is maybe acceptable floppy state AFS plus. I know other people are going to be eating this and they don't like it as floppy as I do, so I'll probably cook it a little bit beyond that. And whatever bacon grease we generate while cooking this, we're going to reserve a couple tablespoons of that for a dressing we're going to be making. We may remove some of the excess, but we want to leave more of that in here because we have more things to cook up. Want to really try and break those pieces up if they're sort of stuck together after you cut them. All right, I'm going to continue to let this cook down, sort of crisp up a little bit, not too much beyond AFS. All right, we are at AFS now, acceptable floppy state, so I'm just going to go for a few more minutes here. Get this bacon just a little more cooked, just a little bit. I don't want it super crispy, but you can cook it to however you like. If I get super crispy, go for it. Super floppy, go for it. All right, that's looking good. I'm going to go ahead and temporarily turn my induction burner off while I transfer the bacon out of here and maybe drain off a little bit of the bacon grease. Now, I'm not putting this on a paper towel to drain off excess grease from the bacon. I want that on the bacon. That's all part of the flavor of this dish. So if you don't like bacon, this is not for you. You can see all that great color down in here. Now, before I drain off any sort of excess grease here, I want to go ahead and get a few tablespoons of this bacon grease. Like I mentioned, we're going to use this for a dressing. Very simple dressing. Okay, so I removed about half of the bacon grease. I reserved it in case we want to add some back later. Right now, I'm going to saute up one medium onion that's been chopped up, not diced or anything like that. And we want to get this nice and soft. I'm using a white onion. You could use a yellow onion, a red onion, whichever you want. And I am going to add back, I don't know, a couple tablespoons of our reserved bacon grease. Now, the base dish that this comes from, Bacornion, I've mentioned that that's one of my favorite side dishes. It is a fantastic dish to take to parties, to make for Thanksgiving dinner or Christmas dinner. It's just a really nice side dish because once you make it, you don't have to keep it hot. It can be served at room temperature, it can be served hot, it could be served cold after you've chilled it in the refrigerator. You just want to make sure there's not too much fat that will congeal on it. So my preferred way to serve it is sort of maybe half an hour after you're done making it. So it's cooled down a little bit, but it's still warm. Now my induction burner is set at power level 5 right in the middle, so this is sort of a medium heat if you're doing it on the stove. All right, while these onions are continuing to soften, we're going to add our corn. And this is 32 ounces of frozen corn. Now it's been sitting out for about half an hour, so it's slightly thawed, but a lot of it is still frozen. That's okay, you can go straight from frozen. Just want to make sure we stir this all up. See these big old frozen bits there? They'll break down. Now you could use fresh corn if you wanted. You could use fire roasted corn. Frozen corn is just so easy in this dish. And that's another thing I like about this Bacornion based dish, this holiday bacon something. You don't have to have a lot of fancy ingredients. You can throw it together in half an hour and it's terrific. We're going to let this cook down for a little bit. Stirring, make sure everything gets softened up, heated all the way through. And I'm going to go ahead and add back the reserved bacon fat. We're using all of it today. All right, this has been going for about 5 minutes, and if you can look down in here, you can see we scraped off all of that good, dark bits. That's what you want to do. You just take a wooden spoon, scrape the bottom, mix that in. All right, I'm going to turn my burner down slightly to a little bit of a medium-low. Now I want to add about a half teaspoon of kosher salt and a half teaspoon of cracked black pepper. Just sort of sprinkle it around here. Let's mix that in a bit here. We're going to go ahead and add our bacon back in. Mix this in. You want enough bacon when you make this so that, like with every spoonful, every forkful, whatever you're using to eat it with, you get bacon. Now I'm going to add a cup of shredded carrot. Just want to mix that in. I'm going to turn my burner down to low now. And we're going to add a cup of dried cranberries. You'll see these sold as craisins sometimes. I think that's the brand name from Ocean Spray. Dried cranberries, not freeze-dried. Get those mixed in. Just want to give those a chance to get a little bit of moisture in here. You can eat them straight as they are dried, but I want to get a little bit of this kind of bacon grease and all the flavors in here. I'm going to add about a half a cup of chopped parsley. If you don't like parsley, you don't have to add it. I know some people don't like parsley, they don't like cilantro. I always say if you don't like something, unless it's really integral to the recipe, leave it out or find a substitute. Make it taste the way you want it to taste. All right, that's looking good. I'm going to set this aside and let it sort of cool for a few minutes while we just whip up that quick dressing. So our dressing, as I mentioned, is extremely simple, and part of it is to bring in a little more sweetness to this because we do have the heat from that Nashville hot bacon. Now, if you're not using Nashville hot bacon or a spicy bacon and just a regular bacon, you could just use this, which is 2 tablespoons of maple syrup. But adding some of that bacon fat to this brings a lot of flavor. So I'm going to add a couple tablespoons of that bacon fat, bacon grease, whatever you want to call it, grease, fat. And we're just going to mix this up. Take a little taste. Oh, I really like that. All right, let's get our holiday bacon something out here and get this dressing on it. If you want it sweeter, just up the amount of maple syrup, or if you don't like maple syrup, use honey, agave syrup, anything like that. Again, you could even leave it off, but I wanted to add a little bit of sweetness here. All right, that's looking good. Let's plate some of this up because it's time to taste. Now with side dishes like this, the questions sometimes become fork or spoon. For corn and things like this, I like to go with a spoon. Way I don't miss any of it. Here we go, first taste. Cranberries, that Nashville hot bacon, corn, all the other goodness. Let's see how we did. As I mentioned at the beginning of this video, I wanted to kick up the original Bacornion recipe for a little bit of a holiday flair. Maybe give it a little bit of heat, give it some sweetness, get those cranberries in there. So I have not made this specific dish before with all these ingredients. I gotta say, I like this better than the Bacornion. Just a little bit of heat left from that bacon, not overpowering at all, which is great because you don't want a dish that some people aren't gonna like because it's too spicy. This has just that little bit of background heat and it's really cut nicely from the sweetness of that maple syrup dressing and the cranberries. This is a winner. 30 minutes to make. You've got a great side dish for your Thanksgiving dinner, Christmas dinner, or just any dinner. It travels well. You can take it to a party. It keeps great in the refrigerator, just like Bacornion, the original recipe would. I've eaten Bacornion 4 or 5 days later as leftovers. All those flavors are still there, and with this, it's going to be even more. So if you're looking for that holiday side dish, something for your own dinner or to bring to a party that's maybe a little bit different, try this holiday bacon something. And I can honestly say, with the ingredients in this, it absolutely is something. This is right up there with some of the favorite things I've made.